Welcome back to my channel for a follow-up episode to my recent video where I introduced the new Leica-M Summilux 50mm f1.4. It's the new member of the Leica-M lens classic line. And in this video I promise to come back and talk a little bit about my shooting experience, but most importantly about image quality. Let's kick this off. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please do so. Subscribe, hit the notification bell and support my content if you like it. I'm very grateful for that and it helps me to increase the reach of my channel. And now let's go into the topic. So this is the newest member here of the Leica classic line in the M lens lineup, and my shooting experience was flawless. I really loved shooting this new classic Leica M lens on my Leica M11P. And I also used the VisuFlex in addition to the rangefinder here, so the optical viewfinder, because it gives me the option to shoot from different angles and also low level above a table or a ground and still having full oversight of the scene here with that EVF. So it's always convenient if I'm traveling with my Leica M cameras to have an electronic viewfinder also with me in my pocket in case I need it. And that's kind of the setup I used. I was shooting this camera in the beautiful city of Geneva in Switzerland in parallel to the Watches and Wonders, which is the big event in the watch industry and jewelry industry. The city was packed full and I actually was able to take some nice shots, which I want to share in a moment in Lightroom. But first things first. So if you look at that construction here, it's very convenient, first of all, to get this lens cap off here. Very nice. Then you press the button here and you get the lens hood off. You rotate it by 180 degrees. You press these two buttons again and the lens hood is mounted. Very simple. And here it also reveals the beautiful chrome finish of that lens. And then focusing, of course, with a rangefinder. I think I have videos on that on my channel, but also with an electronic viewfinder like the VisuFlex here works like a charm. You can also use via the LCD screen focus peaking, magnification, what have you, all these focus aids which you can activate in the menu. And it was really easy to take these shots and the lens really amazed me. It's an absolutely fantastic lens in terms of image quality, and that's why I want to show you now a series of images, discuss them quickly and then conclude the video. Let's go through my first hypothesis from my first video on the Summilux-M 50mm f1.4 classic lens. And that hypothesis said that if you stop the lens down, you will get pinpoint sharp images with very good contrast and excellent micro contrast. And that's what I want to show first here. So here you have a glimpse into Geneva. As I said, it's a beautiful city. And if I crop in here by 100%, this is really, really sharp, looks really good. Look at the colors, look at the contrast in the different areas of the image. Look at the micro contrast, look at all of that. And by the way, beautiful city. Look at the white snowy mountains in the background here and the lake in the foreground. So that's all very nice. I can crop in wherever I want. It will always be sharp. There's a series of these images here. You see here a boat just crossing the lake, which is typically for Geneva. And I should say 50mm is a normal focal length. And that is kind of corresponding to the natural visual impression you have with your eyes as a human being. And here you see a scene at the lake here, someone looking at me. And you see these images, there is absolutely nothing to complain. They are sharp, they are of high contrast, the colors come across very nicely. There is really good micro contrast in these images. And I like a lot what I see here. Here the city front at the lake, and you see this is really a city about Swiss watchmaking. You see here on the left hand side Rolex, then Hublot, Patek Philippe. You know, you see all these brands here, and Geneva is very likely the cradle of a lot of very famous Swiss watch brands. And that's why also the yearly event, the Watches and Wonders, where I showed a quick clip from the website, getting the website here into my video, is taking place in Geneva every year. Here, a very famous bridge crossing the lake here. And again, if you look here, this looks just very nice, very beautiful. Here, a family looking at the lake, and I don't think there is much more to say when it comes to stopping down. These images were all shot between an f4 and an f8, very often an f5.6, which in my opinion is very often the sweet spot for these Leica-M lenses. And it's a beautiful city, it's a fantastic camera lens combination, and I like a lot what I experienced here. Let's now look into people photography, and here an image of my model for Geneva here, and you see in the foreground pinpoint sharp, and then there is a beautiful transition from sharp areas into the more blurry areas of the image. And then if you have more distance towards the background, it becomes very soft, very dreamy. I will come back to this later on. More images here. Look at this beautiful background bokeh here. This was shot widest open at an f1.4. As people know who follow me on my channel, because I've spoken about this very often, it is not possible to identify in retrospective what aperture you have used on a Leica-M lens, because it's not stored in the metadata. But I try to remember when it comes to image quality, but this image here was clearly shot at an f1.4. And you see, my model is sharp, but it is nevertheless a bit soft. And that is the typical character of this classic Summilux-M 50mm f1.4. And the background bokeh is just absolutely fantastic. And we'll see more of that in a moment. Here another image shot at f1.4. And you see the model is sharp, but it is soft. It's not the sharpness you are used to from, let's say, Leica L lenses, or if you shoot with Hasselblad X2D or a Fuji GF X100 Mark II, what have you. It is a more soft appearance if you shoot this classic lens, widest open, but I like it. And I think the transition, if you look at the hair here, again, between sharp and blurry areas of the image is quite fantastic. And the separation you get between the foreground, my model here, and the background is absolutely stunning. So I like a lot that character of the lens, which gives the lens a soul and is not just a technical image appearing here, but something you really enjoy. Here again, look at that. How nice is that background bokeh, and my model in the foreground nevertheless is sharp. I think this one I shot with an f2.8, and you see the softness of the image from the image before. If you look here, the softness disappeared, and I get more structure of the skin, I get more details on the skin and the eyebrows and the lips and so on. And that is typical if you stop down from an f1.4 to, let's say, an f2.8. Since the background here is in far distance, it's still super soft, super blurry, very pleasant in the way it appears here, but then you get more sharpness on your subject in the foreground. That's the typical character of that lens. Here the same, f2.8, f2.8, f2.8. Let's look at the glasses here, and you see this is Louis Vuitton and is very, very sharp. Let's continue here. Here this, I think, is another image at f2.8. So if you want to have more details in the face of your model and don't want that dreamy soft look, go to an f2.8. f2.0 is still a little bit soft, I think, but f2.8 will get the subject very sharp and very clear. And by the way, with an astonishing sharpness. And again, look at the contrast, the micro contrast. That's an image I like in particular. I think this one here I shot with an f4.0. But I'm not sure if I look at that in retrospective. Well, if you look at the structure, at the lips and the eyes, the eyelashes, the eyebrows, maybe it's an f2.8. I can only second guess. It's not possible if you shoot between 50 and 100 frames, and a couple of them I did throw away, to actually decide in retrospective what aperture you were using. You would have to note this down at every image or make a voice note in order to get this right later. But that's also a very nice image. That's for sure an f4.0. because you see much more what's going on in the background here. It's not totally blurry, but it is still blurry. And the foreground with my model, very sharp, very nice. Nevertheless, a shallow depth of field. Look at her hands here. The fingers, the fingernails is soft, but the face is sharp. The structure of the skin is there, and so on and so on. So here I was getting into a sequence where I tried to remember what the aperture was. So this is actually from a waist level shooting perspective here. That's one of the situations where I used my VisuFlex 2, the electronic viewfinder on the Leica M11P. And this is widest open f1.4. And look at these beautiful circular background lights here. Absolutely brilliant and fantastic what I see here. This background bokeh is one of the best I've ever seen. And clearly it is a very, very classic character and soul you see in that lens. Nevertheless, that chocolate here in the foreground is sharp. It's a little bit soft, but it's sharp. And I like that. This is an f2.0, and you see how the background changes a little bit. You get a bit more structure, someone passing by here, a pedestrian. And also here, if you look at that, you see the difference. It's sharp in both circumstances here, but this one here is very clear, very crisp. And that's already happening at f2.0, although the whole image is still soft and very blurry. Then we have here an f2.8, and you get more to see what's going on in the background scene. The foreground is more accentuated and sharp. You see here on the coffee cup some of the chocolate powder they were using here to make the flavor right. And that's an f4.0, f5.6. Now you recognize that there is a city in the background with buildings. It's the old part of the town. Very likely on the right hand side, people sitting here on coffee tables. And that's then an f8.0. And here you clearly see, not on a near distance, because that's not what we are focusing on here, but in the crowd of people sitting on these coffee tables, that it becomes very sharp. And that's the last image I wanted to show. So here intentionally, I blurred the image. So I basically did not focus in the right way because I wanted to show you these absolutely fantastic circular lights. Look here in the middle of the frame on the right hand side, how fantastic this is. You see the aperture blades here basically in that appearance, and also in the other lights here. Very, very nice. As I said before, it's one of the nicest, most pleasant background bouquets I personally have ever experienced and seen. Alright, that's it. That's all I wanted to say and show. I hope these sample images help you to decide whether this new classic lens is for you in the Leica-M lens lineup. And I personally did not regret for a single moment that I spent the money on that lens. It's also not super expensive, as I mentioned, I think, in my previous video on that lens. And it is a beautiful add-on to your Leica-M lens collection. If you liked that video, don't forget to drop me a thumbs up. Stay tuned on my channel. There's always more to come. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and healthy, and of course, peace out.